All right, let's get started. This is the May 28th meeting of the Deferred Compensation Board. First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our joint meeting with the pension board from February 15th. And approval of our regular meeting on February 12th. Do I have a motion to approve, or do I have any questions about those?
So moved. Second.
All approved, all in favor? All opposed? Those two things are approved. So the next thing is the investment consultant report, investment activity, quarterly fund performance, and quarterly plan charges. And then the plan document revision.
That would be from corporate. But before we start, I would like to share with the committee that after 27 years with corporate Valek, I've decided to retire. So my last day will be June 6th.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. And thank you very much for all the partnership and the coordination that we have had over the last 4 years. It has been great working with all of you. But as we always want to have a very smooth transition, make sure that you have the service that you require from corporate. I'm introducing Jay O'Brien, who's going to be the new relationship manager working with your team. I'm confident that Jay would do a great job. He has a lot of experience in the business. He is a great resource for you and your team. With that, I would like Jay to introduce himself and say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. My name is, as Lillian said, Jay O'Brien. I've been with Corbridge for about 4 years, but in the industry for way longer than that. Lived down in Port St. Lucie, Florida, after 30-something years in New Jersey. My wife and my 2 daughters are in the area with my 2 granddaughters are right there. So I'm looking forward to coming up here. Even though I'm a Notre Dame graduate, I am very happy to support the UGA world and the Athens-Clarke County administration. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thanks. And you probably would have done a little bit better if your quarterback didn't get hurt. I get it.
Yeah, well, Jeff, you can go ahead and start with the investment review.
Great. And good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to just touch on a quick market commentary, and I've got Kathy joining me as well. And then we'll walk you through the investment review and cover your investment lineup. So really with markets, the last, call it 3 to 6 months have felt quite different. Coming into 2025, off of 2 years of pretty strong market returns, 2023 and 2024, the S&P 500 was up over 25%. But in the first quarter, we saw a pullback in growth stocks in particular. Large cap growth stocks were down about 10% in the first quarter. And that's a much different return or feel than value stocks. Value stocks were up about 2.5%. And, that's a big change from what we've seen over the past couple of years where growth stocks have really outperformed. Market volatility has increased really with short-term uncertainties, given administration and policy changes that have been very public. The VIX index, which is, a measure of volatility, hit 50 for the 3rd time on record during the quarter. The other 2 times were during the global financial crisis and then the period following COVID. Also, the Fed has been watching rates really closely. The data hasn't supported further rate reductions as we expected coming into the year. But the economy remains pretty resilient. Inflation remains, above the Fed targets. But job growth and consumer consumption still appear to be fairly healthy. Outside the U.S., we did see positive returns. The global developed markets outside the U.S. were up about 6.9% for the first quarter, so a big departure from U.S. stocks. Weakening U.S. dollar did help non-U.S. Stocks. And this is a big departure from the last couple of years as well, where US markets have really outperformed. In the bond market, bonds were up about 2.9% within the US. Outside the US, global bonds returned roughly 2.6% during the first quarter. And lastly, as we look back at the first quarter in recent market volatility, this period is a good reminder of how important diversification is within the context of an investment portfolio. So I'm going to pause there before we jump into the investment review if there are any questions.
You're good, Jeff.
Okay. And I'm going to share. And just let me know if you can see my screen. I'm sharing now.
We're good. Can you make that larger for the blind?
Great, thank you. So within the Athens-Clarke County investment lineup, just a reminder, in August of 2024, there were quite a few fund changes made. I think 6 fund changes were made. So a lot of, change made about, let's call it 6-7 months ago. So the lineup's in pretty good shape. I guess that's the good story, is we did address a number of the underperforming funds. There are just a couple I want to touch on and just bring to your attention during this meeting, but really these are just more for informational purposes only. We didn't bring any alternatives for your consideration this time. But as a reminder, with our monitoring methodology, I'm going to skip down to how we monitor our funds. We do look at 4 pretty key data points. We look at those data points over 8 rolling quarters, and then that does come up with a score, a monitor score. Anything over 70, we consider a good score, a passing score. Anything below that, it just means that we're going to watch the fund a little closer. Within your lineup specifically, there were some funds that are below the 70 mark, and we'll just discuss those briefly. But I think there's some good answers to why they're underperforming for short-term periods, or a number of them have actually started to show recovery, which we'll take a look at. So the BNY Mellon Appreciation Fund is the first one I wanted to point your attention to, and this is in the large cap growth category. And it has underperformed over the past 1 and 3 years, as you'll see over to the right. 83 and 84, those are the percentile rankings for the 1 and 3 years. And 1 is going to be the top percentile, so the best. 99 is going to be the worst. And you can see the monitor score is now at a 72 or 62. This is the first quarter on watch. This fund did have a pretty, it underperformed in 23 and most of 2024. It's really light on some of the bigger growth companies that did really well over the past couple of years. Really no concerns. Again, it's the first quarter on watch. We would continue to watch this one going forward. Another comment about this fund specifically is it used to be more in this large blend area. And over time, it shifted to your large growth area. And that's why you can see you have 3 funds in that category now. So at some point, we may want to consider consolidating funds. There's nothing wrong with having 3 funds in a large growth category, but should this continue to underperform other large growth funds, you do have some really good options. We could continue or consider consolidating this asset class.
Would it be fair to say that entire sector is really getting beat up right now?
It's recovered a little bit, but yeah, I mean, first quarter, much of fourth quarter in 24, it definitely underperformed.
And Jeff, when we see a fund that doesn't have a score, remind us why that is.
Yeah, no, great question. Those are index funds, so it's really not trying to outperform. It's really just trying to track an index.
Thank you.
Jeff, you said BNY has moved to the growth. Is that an intentional thing, or is that just style drift?
That's a great question too, Jay. That is style drift. Their underlying benchmark, I believe it is the S&P 500, but the underlying holdings have drifted into the growth space.
So the company isn't making the decision. It's just the way their investments have turned out when they go to pick the different stocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And that's really a Morningstar style box where Morningstar looks at the underlying holdings and really assigns a category, not the fund manager themselves.
And it appears over the last 5.5, 6 months that it's actually outperforming the indexes. So there is some turnaround there in spite of the sector getting beat up.
Yes, and this one specifically year to date, and this is through yesterday, or actually last Friday. I did pull some updated returns. It's in the 35th percentile year to date. So year to date, it's actually made some progress, which is good to see. I'll move on, but again, feel free to jump in with any questions. The next one I just wanted to point out, this is actually a positive story. The Neuberger Berman Mid-Cap Growth Fund. Last time we met, it had been on watch about 5 quarters. It's now off of watch. You can see it's really recovered over the 1 and 3 years and even 5 years. It's in the top half of its peer universe. So we've seen some really good recovery out of this fund. I just wanted to point that out, that it's no longer on the watch list. The next one I'll point out is the Franklin Small Cap Value. It's on the watch list with a score of 55. Looking at the 3 and the 5 year returns, it's top half, so it's really recovered some more recently, particularly over the last 2 years. So really no concerns with this. I would expect this fund, should it continue improving, would also fall off the watch list here at some point. The next one is ClearBridge. This one is concerning. It's now 2 stars. The monitor score is low. It's still underperforming over 1, 3, and 5 years. Bottom half of the peer group. The one reason we didn't provide alternatives is shown a lot of recovery, especially in 1Q when markets turned. So it's really good to see. You can see it. It was down about 8%. And while that's not great, the benchmark was down about 11% in the first quarter. So this is one where with kind of the market environment shifting, we would probably want to continue to watch this one to see how it recovers. And the next time we meet, should it not show recovery, this would be a fund where we would likely bring alternatives to you. And then lastly is going to be the Prudential High Yield Fund. It's at a 62. Really no concerns here. It's still a 4-star fund. The 1-year ranking is 12th percentile. This is the second quarter on watch, I should say. So it's been below that 70 for now 2 quarters, which does not warrant really any concern from our end. And those are really the funds I wanted to touch on today. I'll open it up for any questions.
I have a question on the real estate sector, Cullen and Steers Realty shares. We've got a rate score of 100, but if I look at 3-month, year to date, and 1 year, way underperforming the REIT index and the Morningstar category. Why the score of 100?
Yeah, no, great question. So the monitor score really looks at longer term performance. It's going to take into account the 3 and the 5 year return specifically, as well as Morningstar star rating. And you can see it's still a 5-star rated fund, and expenses are the last piece of that. And its expenses are very competitive with peers. So yeah, you're exactly right. Over the last quarter and even 1 year, it's underperformed the benchmark pretty considerably over the last year, but that has not played into that 3-year number. It still has outperformed the benchmark and peers over 3 and 5 year periods.
All right. Well, as a note to everybody in the room, my 2 cents is that this is not the time to make any changes in funds. Because philosophically, who the hell knows? So.
It should have been in Bitcoin. Should have been in Bitcoin. It doesn't do anything, doesn't mean anything, but heck, it goes up 20, 30,000 a coin, hey.
It didn't work for me this morning at the drive-thru. They couldn't make change.
Made it with gold. It's gold.
All right, do we want to go on to the next item?
Well, I included an executive summary. Manny, if you can show that one with the key metrics and information on what we are working on with your team.
Which one is it? What's it called?
It's a,
Corporate summary plan.
yes.
It got sent to you yesterday. An email. Yeah, but he's done.
Thought I pulled everything. Apologize.
No problem. Well, when you're doing that, I can also look at some of the key updates and initiatives that we have been working on. One is the fund exchange that happened on April 10th, and that was approved on the last committee meeting. And then also we have been working with your IT team on the payroll file data updates. We believe that will be completed by the end of June, has been in progress. We wanted to discuss some information on the 457B plan because of the document. We were reviewing the plan document, and it seems like the plan document allows all employees to participate in the plan. And then there's some excluded classes that we have been discussing. So that's another thing. I don't know if you want to discuss it in the meeting or it's something that.
HR has been working on this with our old folks to make this transition happen. And we spoke to David Michaud as well. It is our understanding that the 457 plan itself, anyone can contribute to. There's no restrictions. Now, there wouldn't be a match for part-time people. The match is reserved for full-time with benefits. The question that we would like input on from the board is, do we want to open up the 457B to part-time folks? And we're talking part-time, the traditional part-time who are here most of the time, not our seasonal people that work summers or our Board of Elections people that are only here sporadically, but are more, we call them regular, but they can work up to 29 hours a week, or yeah. Or do we want to say, nope, part-time is part-time. The way that they're classified in our payroll system is part-time, no benefits. The majority of them, we only have one class where benefits are allowed, and it's one specific position in the courts, which is vacant right now. We would leave that alone because it does allow benefits. And if that person wanted to contribute, great. But before we set up this, before we make sure we have a correctly executed plan document that'll identifies correctly who can participate and who can't, we were looking for consensus on the board on basically the bottom line is, do we want part-time, no benefits people to be able to participate or not?
What impact do you think, if any, that might have on turnover for those positions?
I really don't think, I mean, with the exception of some folks who actually are at this table, a lot of our part-time folks don't have a huge hourly rate. So we don't even know what they would contribute. We don't have anybody contributing currently in that. And we've had some folks in the past who were full-time, who became part-time, who didn't stop their 457 contributions. But we don't have any currently on the plan at all.
Is there any downside to allowing that to happen?
There is, from a, first of all, it's of course more administrative work for HR and payroll. But also if people who are contributing to this 457 are working full-time somewhere else and contributing to a 457, there could be over contributions. And we wouldn't know about it necessarily. They don't tell us. So we don't want that to come back on us and affect our tax reporting. So that's a big concern that payroll has with it.
Is it fair to say that a PTMB employee took the position knowing straight up there are no
There are
benefits?
no benefits, right?
So there's not this assumption, or it may even be part of their financial plan to not be in that position. You know, it would be the only thing we only have one of those, but, which department, well, here's a question. Which department has the most of those types of positions? And is there a reality to that sort of grouping that I'm not aware of?
Probably our biggest department that carries part-time is leisure services.
Other than seasonal?
Well, a lot of them aren't seasonal. I mean, they have a big chunk of summer seasonal, but then
We've
the
never-
parks, a lot are run by part-time people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've never advertised that it's available to part-time folks. The ones who have typically gone into it are like what Sarah said, where they were full-time and just went to part-time and never changed their contribution. Never really been advertised or.
Your point about over contribution,
Mhm.
if in fact there are two employers and that happens, where would that, is that a joint liability of both employers, or is it he who crosses the line?
That's a great question. I'm sure there's IRS guidance on it.
Yeah,
I
that's.
don't, it's on the participant who crosses the line.
And if you put some sort of disclaimer to the employee, if you have another plan someplace else, this could throw you over.
So maybe we're probably the ones crossing the line, since they're capped at a certain level, full-time employer with gravy.
Yeah, but it would have to be a highly compensated person to do that.
It would,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
I don't even know what the limits are right now, but they're up there.
$23,500
Yeah.
Is there
if you're under
additional,
50.
is there additional cost administratively depending on how many people are submitted over in the files?
No, that's automatic.
But in the long term, when you do go to reprice everything, it's average account balance. And
No.
if you have a lot of people contributing very little, it costs us something. We have to share that cost with you guys.
So if we had a bunch of part-time folks that went over and they don't contribute anything, but.
Well, if they contribute a little bit, right? So if you contribute $10, you're on our records now. Congratulations, we have to keep track of you.
yeah.
So what's the average tenure, folks, ballpark?
Oh, I would know,
Swag,
man.
3 years,
They-
2 years?
They fluctuate so much.
I mean, some of our part-timers, yeah, it's just like full-time. They'll hang on for years and others are gone in a year or two.
As soon as they find full-time.
Yeah,
When did they come up? When did this question come up?
because we're actually finalizing the plan document so that we can turn on this online piece. And we realized when we were doing the final check on it that, oh, look, the exclusions don't mention part-time. I mean, there were a bunch of exclusion. And so, again, I sort of fall in the camp of why confuse the issues. People already don't think they get benefits, but we wanted this to be a board vote.
I kind of went into this thinking, what's the harm? And the more this conversation goes on, it sounds like it may not be a good
That's
idea.
why I'm asking. Now, as you say, it increases your
It does.
infrastructure costs, your administrative costs. Does that increase our costs?
At some point, not right away. We have a contract.
So
At some
if
point,
it's successful, yes. Okay.
Plus, they may have access to IRAs and stuff outside if they wanted to do something.
Mhm.
So I would,
that's a great.
I would
point, because
motion
they're not
no.
getting matched anyway, so what's the benefit to them?
Right.
So for HR, would this, if we make any changes to plan documents, would that require any code changes
I
that y'all?
don't think that it does.
No,
Because
we're,
this is just in the detail of the plan document. It's not in the benefit itself.
We just wanted to make sure that the document represents the administration of the plan.
Right.
So that's what we wanted to make sure we got that.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, we're good.
And those individuals have other tax deferred options available to them.
Mhm.
So it's not like we're the only option. They
Right.
can do an IRA, they can do a Roth,
Mhm.
those kinds of things are out there. So, I would put a motion on the table unless there's more discussion that we say no to that plan change.
I second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Well, now that we know that, we can finalize the plan document and,
Move forward.
John, I'll get with you because we'll have to get a signature on it from the board chair. But once we have that, they can finalize this and we can get this project finally out of development and into implementation, which is what we've been working on, is the implementation, but we finally get it into the hands of the employees, which is gonna be fantastic. Very excited about seeing what it will do. Lilia gave us a tour of the system and it puts everything in your hands to be able to adjust your percentage contribution,
No more
do
paper forms.
loans. It takes a lot of paperwork off of HR. There's not a day that goes by that we're not signing releases for money and things. It's a very paper-based process right now.
So again, that was, the whole purpose of it, making
Yeah.
everything easier and.
It'll speed it up for the employees too. When they need money, they can get it faster. So it's a good thing.
Perfect, no, great. So looking at the information at the key metrics, wanted to go over the different plans, information. So on the 457B plan, at the end of the quarter, there were 2,350 employees. On the matching plan, 2,378 and 83 in the management plan. And active participants, 1,360, 1,369 and 36. And as you can see, there is a small difference between the 457B and the matching plan, and that's because some employees maybe start contributing on their own, but they might have the matching that was done for the quarter. And then the ending balance at the end of the quarter total, and it was 85.6 million across all plans, 67.9 in the 457B, 12.8 million in the matching plan, and 4.7 million in the managing plan. And then contributions, over 1.9 million across all plans, distributions 1.7. And then when you look at the loans, the only plan that allowed loans is the 457B, and there were 73 loans in the plan with a total balance of 680,636. So as you can see, that one had increased quite a bit in the last year and a half since those were added. Any questions on any of the information?
Have we been receiving any feedback from employees on the loans? Anything that y'all can speak to on the value, what they're using it for, or anything like that?
David probably had more details on that, but knowing the increase that it went from 0 to 73, so it seems like it's being used and the participants take advantage of it.
The ones that have used it that I'm aware of are pretty happy with the way it works and how easy it is to come by. I've seen it used for anything from home repairs to vehicles to medical bills. There's a pretty wide variety.
And
Any hiccups or problems?
do we track defaults?
We have, I said, we do, like, there's a report I can pull if I need to, but as far as I'm aware, we don't have a problem with that at this point in time.
Okay. That's not nice.
Yeah, payments aren't made, just for everybody's knowledge, payments aren't made frequently enough. They go into default, it becomes a taxable event, and 1099 law would be issued.
And it doesn't, the payments don't come through payroll. Their employees required to pay that on their own, so we don't see those come through HR.
Wasn't there there's an auto draft that was set up or could be set up for that?
ACH.
They
yeah,
can't
go
do
direct.
their own ACH.
They
but
have to do that
Right.
themselves.
It's just like a bill pay kind of thing.
Mhm.
All right, well, small data point question, but the 36 active participants in the management plan, why is that so low? Isn't that about 50% of the folks that are eligible?
Everybody wants to enroll.
Yeah, they can elect. Yeah, you have to elect in if you know,
Oh, okay.
that higher.
30 years ago, I bought a brand new.
I guess that's-
It's true, first year.
Yeah, it seems to be that a lot of, the majority of our folks who are already pension
less than that.
Eligible, don't switch out. They stay with the pension.
Oh,
Can I make a?
Because that, I mean, it's directors and assistant directors, correct? And then-
Administrators.
Okay, so the number of folks that have the opportunity to make that choice is.
It's on the low side anyway. We have about 22 administrators and then, I don't know, you've got 42 departments and then not all of them have assistant directors.
Okay,
But, some of them have been with us for a long time and
yeah,
they opted out at administrator level if they got there. And
Like myself as an example, I stayed in the pension.
me too. I didn't come out. So,
all right,
So can I make a request for the August meeting? And it's probably directed back to David, two areas. Where are we at in terms of small balances and clearing that out?
okay.
I can't remember frankly whether we raised the threshold.
we did. It's just 7,500. We did.
7,000.
Oh, 7,000, sorry, 7,000.
So where are we at with that? The second thing is, what percentage of our current active employees are still at 100% fixed income?
Okay. Oh,
What is the breakdown of those employees by age? Because those may be things that we need to revisit and refocus on.
Yeah.
We've got 11 slides, which is beautiful, but
Right. And it's more on the education side. You don't want to
Right.
dip your toe into advice at the board level. You want to
right,
say,
well, we had auto enrollment before we changed it to age targeted families.
Okay.
Plans.
and the thing that the fault was in many of those guys.
David had a strategy of going back by age group, kind of working reverse from youngest to oldest. And it's been a while since we need an update on where we're at, what the next plan is.
yeah, definitely. Okay, and then the last item that I wanted to visit here is the Secure Act 2.0, a couple of the provisions that are in place. One of them is in place right now for the higher catch-up for those employees age 60 to 63. That was in effect 1/1/2025. And then the catch-up for employees with a compensation over 145,000 in 2026, that will have to go into a Roth contribution source. And I know that Tom, we're working with Tom to get those into the system, so it will be ready by 1/1/26. Okay, and then briefly on the next page, I included the median information for participants for each plan. It has the details by age group, but also for all ages. And as you can see, for the 457B, the median contribution for the quarter was $552. For the matching plan, 128, and for the management plan, 1,831. That usually is larger, the same with when you look at the median for the account balances. The management plan, all ages, is 31,604. For the matching plan, 1,763. For the 457B plan, 7,439. These numbers are slightly lower, the account balances from prior quarter because of the market, down in the market, and all the assets were a little bit lower as well. And then the other thing that I'm including here is the plan administration fees that I know you were asking on the last review. I'm happy including that. So it's about $20,000 for the quarter across all plans. 16,912 were for the 457B plan, 2,337 for the matching plan, and then $901 for the management plan. And that's charged to participants on a quarterly basis based on that growth pricing that we review. Any questions, anything else? Before we move on? Okay, well, thank you. Okay. You bet.
So the next is the, approval of investment policy. Is that what we just did?
Right.
Okay.
So one of the things in the code section enabling this board is establishment and investment policy statement. My understanding is last updated in 2022. My further understanding is that there are no proposed revisions for this year. So what y'all would be voting to do is just continue the investment policy statement along as it's presently constituted.
I don't have
So
a problem.
moved, so moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Number 4 was is sort of I guess a talking point for HR as the plan administrators on what's happened since, I guess, March, when we presented to mayor and commission the board's recommendations for updates to the current DC plan. I don't know if John can speak to anything as a member of the commission, but we all know the budget is extremely tight. We have not received any signals at all from mayor and commission that there's going to be money available to do anything. But we were just asked, yesterday? To go ahead and submit agenda items.
This morning.
Yeah, this morning for the ask for this board so that mayor and commission can officially thumb up or thumb down.
Say no.
Say no.
Wait, so was it did we give a number to the mayor for,
Mhm.
what did he include that in his approved budget?
Don't believe so.
Pension fund had the parallel exercise.
Yes.
A higher number.
So would that be, they said to put it on an agenda item to vote for a budget amendment?
This would be for FY 27, because even if we had agreed to it, it wouldn't have been able to go into effect until FY 27.
And when will that vote take place?
July, July and August, yeah.
We don't meet in July, so it'll be the August voting meeting. I guess we'll have it in the agenda at the end of July.
So John, from wearing your other hat, is there any value in representation at those meetings from this board to discuss that? Or is that just one misinterpretation?
And y'all probably explain it better than I can. It wouldn't be a bad idea in the agenda setting. But not, I wouldn't put it too detailed, more bullet points.
You got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be more important to be there to let them know you're there, we're interested, and we're here to answer questions, and here's what we did. I think a lot of times when boards and these kind of things come and then they stand up in a defensive position, speaking to the commission, it's not helpful at all. Versus we're here, we understand and we'd love to answer questions.
That's why I'm asking.
Yep. Agreed.
Is that something where the board, has it been our practice in the past to say somebody would speak on our behalf? Just to say, or no?
What I'm hearing you say is that we would be available as a resource for questions as opposed to an advocate.
Very good. It's the first change like this has been made. So yeah, it's a new idea.
Advocation creates resistance is what I'm hearing.
Depends on the subject.
Availability though might create one regional discussion. Right, and I think that's your point. Is being present, saying you're there if you have a question, if they are gonna dig into this a little bit. I've heard them express regret when somebody isn't there when they've had.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's why there.
Yeah, and my take on this, because, it was discussed earlier this year with the commission, generally in terms of what those recommendations were, and my view, I didn't get a real negative feedback from the commission. I think they understood their restrictions at this point and what they had to work with, but moving forward, I did it all, yet don't bring this to us because we're not interested forward in the future.
What was the dollar amount?
This one wasn't as much as a pension, but I don't.
Change was what, 300 a year-ish to the general fund, correct? 100 a year.
There were a couple proposals.
The pension.
Ours was option 6. is what we-
Let me see. I've got
So
the,
let's get it on the agenda, what the pension does.
Well, it sounds like they may be going at the same time. Let me see. Just gotta get to the slide. I don't remember where we put it. Health plans, it was all this giant, here it is, defined benefit. We gave them.
Option 2 and option 4.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, we changed, hold on. Show me.
Switcheroo.
Yeah.
That's pension, defined comp.
It started out 1 through 6 and then it got condensed. 1 through 4.
So, can you see it? So one was the 12% maximum at 15 years. The other one was 8% maximum at 15 years. With a employer contribution of 4% for the 12% max and 2% for the 8% max.
And those were options 2 and 4 off of the.
I think there's 6 in the.
Yeah, it was all
Yeah.
6.
Originally, but then there wasn't, I remember that, there was a change in the total options that were presented.
Yep. We added some,
Look at the minutes
Became a new 4.
yes.
I think it's the minutes from the combined.
But yeah, if I recall, it was the 12% match that was scaled in over time and as the employer contributed additional on their own. And that's what we ultimately recommended. Up to the 12% match. Sorry, 4% match.
4% for 12% max.
12%.
Yeah. I knew what you meant, but I'm looking at the graph, so it's easy for me to be like, yeah, that one. That was our first option. That was our preferred option, and then we gave them a backup.
So can I ask you a question? So it won't take effect or wouldn't have taken effect until FY 27, but we're voting on the 26 budget. So help me understand how that.
Well, no, this agenda item will be in August, so it'll be for the upcoming fiscal year. Like, we were never gonna be able to get anything in for FY 26. These were when we made our recommendations to the mayor and commission at the work session,
Right.
this was always gonna be further down the road. Because,
They're not discussing, they're not approving or disapproving this on the FY 26.
no, there's no
budget.
change for FY 26. Yeah,
It's an FY 27.
it takes that long
Right.
to get yeah. We're basically working a fiscal year ahead all the time.
especially with stuff like this, we would have to know in advance.
Yeah, we have to know way in advance to budget it.
It's more strategic. Yeah. To be on the front end of that
Well,
discussion.
it formalizes, their position one way or the other early,
Right,
a couple, 3 months before the departments start preparing the budget. And it gives this board time to continue to work through too, if there's support.
Yep.
We were way late this year.
The tricky part of it is not getting sucked into a hangover from the discussion of the budget.
Right.
Discussion. So
Maybe we should push it off to the next, month cycle in September, to the point.
well, who can ask for that?
So in the minutes, it says the deferred compensation options, option 1, employee contributes 2%, employer matches 2%. I thought you just said 12.
Initially, but
The minutes that they sent, the draft,
Is that the February joint meeting?
because there's 2 that come.
this is the joint meeting, yeah,
That's September.
February 5th joint meeting.
Didn't speak for that.
February.
And then, well, now, but our meeting was on February 12th,
Well-
so we changed, yeah,
We changed it there. yeah.
Okay.
So now,
yeah.
we'll make that recommendation. I guess we'll go back to manager's office. Brandon.
I'll check on it.
Oh, okay, great.
I mean, to me, unless there's a reason that I'm not aware of, it makes a lot of sense to go off in
give it-
September.
To give it a little bit of a,
Right off the dim code back.
yeah. Mhm. So that would be the September,
August, September.
August, September, okay, cycle, okay, thank you.
When do final tax bills come out?
October. Like beginning of October.
You wouldn't be ahead of the flood.
We already know what our tax bill is. We already got the assessments.
Anything else on that topic?
I just think it's important to show, to be available for questions. I think it's right not to stand at the podium purposefully and advocate, but show availability and that's it. I think that would.
When do we meet?
August.
Okay, so we can discuss it again.
Good,
Make,
yeah.
so make sure we have all the talking points. All right, plan design, we just discussed that, about not changing anything. Annual review of the membership.
So I sent everybody a list of the members in terms of office. If you didn't already know, Dennis was already appointed by the mayor to serve his third and final term with this board. So we won't be able to get him after 27. When he's done, y'all. So, but we do have another person, unfortunately, we're going to lose, I guess, off the board, which is you. Harrison's term ends at the end of June. And so I need permission from you to start the election process to replace him.
This is your second term. right?
Yeah, he's term limited. He's done.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion granted.
Citizen rep gets 3, employee rep gets 2.
Yes.
And since we don't meet again until after your term ends,
It's also my last meeting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
thank you so
For
much
your
for
service.
everything you've done and your service and your focus.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Selfish question. Do partial terms count?
No. We already got that cleared through the attorney's office. I actually have a note about partial term does not count towards total term limit. So you're good. Loophole. So, great. Well, like Dennis said, I'll be sorry to see come off the board. It's been a pleasure going to meetings with you and JAPPT.
Takes about 18 months to 2 years just to figure everything out.
Yeah, and then you're off the board.
Then you're coming around the final.
It's like a teacher.
Yeah. All right, so so the community representative, we're good with that then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, he's been signed off on by the mayor.
All right, and then so our meeting calendar,
Unless anyone has any objections, I left on the meeting calendar for FY 26, a special called joint meeting with the pension board, just in case we need it. If we don't, great, we'll scratch it. But we have it, so we don't have to do this huge push for 50 million meetings at the beginning of the calendar year.
Motion approved.
all in favor, say aye.
Who seconded? Was that you, Bruce? Thank you.
Adoption of work plan.
Oh, I'll send everything
Okay.
out. No worries.
Thank you, by the way, in the work plan for including that reoccurring quota.
Yes, yes.
Individual funds. That's important.
I don't have anything else to say about the deferred compensation. I took the input I got from board members, added it in. Updated the dates. So,
All right. So, discussion of recommendation to develop
Or, do we vote on something?
We got-
Yeah, we have to vote on that.
Plan.
Do I have a motion to approve the work plan?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So we've adopted the work plan. Now discussion of recommendation to develop DC board budget.
Do you want to talk about that since it was your?
Just, yeah, just briefly, the idea here was, that we found it beneficial to put people through specific training, get certifications, through GAPPT, that costs money. Internally, we were able to pay for that out of our budget from PD this year and last year to get me through. But Bonnie and I talked about whether it'd be appropriate for us to have some small budget that could pay for that training in the future. I think it's extremely beneficial to get that on the front end. I didn't have that until just last year.
18 months?
Yeah, it'd be helpful for future board members, and it would be helpful to have a plan in place to pay for that.
But unlike the pension board, which takes the money out of the fund itself to pay expenses, we don't have that option here.
Right.
Which those were 27 budget.
It would be an FY 27 budget this year.
General fund.
General fund this year. And it wouldn't be, in the grand scheme of things, it would be budget dust effectively.
You're really talking tuition and travel.
Correct. Very small.
Is that something that could be included as part of the agenda item going in August, September? This is second. That would make sense.
Yeah, I think do it like that.
So, you know, in the planning department, we have a generalized training line item. We staff 3 boards. And that training budget line item is for staff and the board members. It's all inclusive. So I don't know if that's the case with HR. That it could be interpreted that way. And if it is interpreted that way, is there a sufficient balance? Then maybe it's not a unique ask. Maybe it's just something that comes out of your budget submittal. And it's not a standalone agenda item.
Yeah,
Sometimes
Or added to.
that's what I mean.
we can look at, yeah.
Could, that's
That'd be
again.
a nice place for it to live, just
Yeah.
as an additional supplement for the purpose of training this board.
It would make sense, guys, if you have the time to really think about how many certifications are required, what that looks like, how many days, and really kind of back into a number so we know what we're talking.
Sure. Right. Yep.
And right now it's ethereal,
Mhm.
but say one individual, one trip might be $1,000.
Right.
How do you exponentially come up with a budget on that? What would cost based on membership and turnover and requirements?
So you've got dues, you've got the trustee school, we've got, at least for that specifically, you've got at least 2 courses you have to go through to get the basic certification that are done in separate trustee schools and conferences.
Right.
So it's pretty easy to figure out. I just wanted that to be discussed.
I think it's
Really good idea.
a great idea.
The other thing we've learned is having a BAC that has its own budget, has its own pitfalls.
Yes.
And so if the money is slotted with staff who are used to managing those kinds of funds and have that kind of responsibility on the regular, you're in much better shape than having a board whose personality changes as its composition changes and having its own dedicated budget, that can be weaponized. So
So if you look at it that way, one of the wrinkles to that is, personally speaking, I'm not staff. So therefore, am I included or not included in that? And it's weird, because you're gonna have the same issue regardless of who sits in the seat.
and what I'm anticipating you would be, because in our situation, none of the people on the boards are staff.
Hmm.
Like, they're all residents of Athens-Clarke County. They can't be staff. So it's worked fine for, you know, a long time.
Very good. I'll look into it.
But you can incorporate an HR, but
That's the idea. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Well, we can add it to our budget then.
We can ask, make the ask.
Makes sense. If we get a number, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Administratively, that would be easier too. so-
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate that.
All right, so talking about the trustee school, we held September 15th through 17th in Macon. Anything else about that? Or
Is there anybody?
If anyone needs to go to that, that is the school, not the conference, just let me know, send me an email so that I can get it scheduled. I'm the one who does the registrations and handles the hotel and all that kind of stuff, so they've got me on file.
Not that it's any incentive, but I'm going to get part two
For-
after
Get
watching
her advanced certification.
the other ones go through it, yeah.
All right, and then, Mission Square, plan contacts and access update.
I just have an update for you to sign off on that just, realigns, if someone could pass that down to John. The administrative responsibilities, roles in HR to sign off on things for Mission Square.
They had old,
Very old
very old
plan,
information who their contacts were who are no longer there,
yes.
so we just needed to update that contact list.
That's gonna make them very happy.
So do I put phone number where it says sign here?
Yeah, I think they want it. I'm not sure why, but.
Employee comments or other issues?
I don't have anything to,
Thanks again, chief.
Yes, thank you.
enjoy it.
I'll see you on
Great work,
Thursday.
next time.
See you on Thursdays for meatloaf.
Yeah. It's a secret, don't give
Do you want to just keep that, Bonnie?
Sorry, good for me to.
Yeah, what's what's the day of the next meeting?
Oh, I guess something, hang on, let me get this. August 13th.
All right. Got them. Any other comments?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? We're adjourned. Thank y'all.
Thank you, everyone.